Shrug family this week on Barbell Shrugged. Shane Farmer, you may know him from Dark Horse Rowing. He has one of the biggest, if not the biggest, rowing channel on the internet. All of it, specifically YouTube. Shane's a good buddy of mine from back in the day of San Diego. We used to compete against each other in CrossFit and became friends and trained together and talked business together and all the fun things in life that come along with fitness. Shane's an awesome dude, knows a ton about the rowing space and overall in the fitness space, just because he's been in this thing for a good 12, 15 years now. As always, friends, make sure you get over to rapidhealthreport.com. That's where Dan Garner and Dr. Andy Galpin are doing a free lab, lifestyle, and performance analysis that everybody inside Rapid Health Optimization will receive. And you can access that over at rapidhealthreport.com. Friends, let's get into the show. Welcome to Barbell Shrugged. I'm Anders Varner, Doug Larson, Coach Travis Mesh. Shane Farmer, all the way from Southern California. Dude, I totally, when I saw your name come through, wanted to talk about how you beat me by one spot. I was like, we've moved on beyond that. We're past that now.
Conversation. Yeah.
I know. It's literally the first thing I think about every time I see your name. I'm like, that guy got me.
Always and forever.
Dude, he's still plotting his revenge for the record when you're not around.
Could you imagine like working out like that right now? Not me. Dude, when I left San Diego, you were actually, I think you interviewed me. I know you interviewed me, but you were trying to kind of expand your like offerings, expand kind of like your reach into coaching coaches. And then I think right after that, you hit like 50,000 subscribers on your channel.
Yeah.
And since then, I go and check you out. Like, I would say like once a month. I like to go see what's going on. That thing is exploded.
Yeah, we're I think within a month, looks like within a month, if I'm looking at my stats right now, we'll hit 300K. So that'll be cool.
That's enormous.
Dang.
Yeah.
Congratulations, man.
I'm amazed there are that many people that care about what I talk about.
Me too, because you're literally rowing. You're not even moving.
No.
You're
I don't
sitting
go
in
anywhere.
place in motion.
Yeah, it's boring. It is boring to watch.
But this is exactly what I asked. How do you keep it fresh and new? And because I remember you were going and like carrying a rower, the C2 up mountains.
Yeah.
And now you just got a fresh setup in your garage. And I'd love to understand just kind of like mentally, like how do you keep the vibe fresh and all of it exciting for people when you really are just rowing?
You take like a 2-year unannounced hiatus because you just get totally burned out on making 2 videos a week every single week on your own and like dragging your editors through the mud with you. And then you just burn out and then you kind of like recollect yourself and go, all right, well, I do enjoy making videos. I just don't enjoy having to make videos. And so I guess I should get back to making videos that I enjoy making, which is kind of what the last 9 months has really been about. Last year, I've made videos that just seemed fun to make. And, I put out my first workout again a month ago just for fun. I had my own work. So I'm back to actually rowing this year, which is cool. It's been like my big comeback to the sport of rowing, competing on the water again. And
you're back on the water?
Yeah. 5-time national champion this year. So it's been, we went and swept nationals in 4s and 8s. There wasn't a race that we didn't win. So I don't know if you can see all the medals on the.
Yeah, look at that.
That's awesome. A
lot of hardware back there.
Those are all from 24. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I just had a training work. I was like, I should just turn the camera on. I'm already going to be on the machine. Recorded it. People liked it. So I don't know. I'm trying to just take it a little less seriously when I make the video, and then I take it seriously when it's time to post the video. So, I make sure all the nuts and bolts are right, getting the right thumbnail, getting the right title, making sure that the editor's outline for how to edit is really firm so that we know what we're trying to accomplish with it. That way I know it'll land for the YouTube audience, like how they like to consume things. And that's been a big change. Like a lot of my videos have gone, if you know YouTube, from our end, like the owner's end of it, when I publish a video, I see how it's performing relative to my last 10 videos. So I see if it's a 1 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10, if it's a flop. And we've had most of our videos go like 1 through 3 of 10, which is great. You can't really ask for much better than that. So
Yeah.
What is kind of like the latest in the rowing community that is cool and exciting? Like when I look at, I have an erg right in front of me next to an Airdyne, and I feel like there's like 15 versions of an Airdyne,
Yeah.
but still there's only the C2. Like they just made the best thing and nobody's ever challenged it.
Well, Rogue's trying right now. They came out with the Echo Rower. In my opinion, that was a real shady approach to launching a machine because they like Concept 2 was has been their best partner. Concept 2 is like
Yeah,
the best partner
they
you
sold
can
a lot of
imagine.
rowers on Rogue.
Yeah, and they let Rogue be the sole distributor domestically. Nobody else could sell Concept 2s. It was just Rogue and
Oh
Concept 2
gosh.
direct to manufacturer. And without any warning, Rogue basically tried to rip them off by making a Chinese made knockoff,
Oh.
reverse engineered the monitor to say that it's equivalent. They took copy straight from Concept 2's site and used it on their product listing and then said, "Oh, hey, we have a rower," and didn't tell Concept 2. They just launched it and
I
tried
feel
to
like you're getting
undercut
called into a
Concept 2 on
website,
price.
or you're getting called into a court
Man.
battle
Well,
here as an witness.
I mean, I just watched it.
You've worked with them both for a long time.
Yeah, because I'm not in Concept 2. But I'm very close on the periphery, and so I saw this and I was like, oh man, this is not a good look. Like the way they went
No.
about doing it is not a good look. And in typical fashion, like trying to kind of put the like USA made stamp on it, but it's not. It's not. They're using the fact that a lot of their steel work is done in the US, but this machine is not. Whereas Concept 2, they say our parts are not made, well, not all of our parts are made in the US, but it's all assembled here in Vermont at our tiny little factory. Like it didn't come out right. So that was a big drama.
Yeah.
That's not
So,
the first time they've done that, but that's the
Yeah.
thing about working with a big company like that. It's the risk you run.
I'm assuming that partnership is over now. As a result.
Yeah.
they backed out of that deal.
Yeah, what was so weird right after it happened too is Rogue still had to use Concept 2 at the Rogue Invitational, even though they had just announced the Rogue Echo Rower. So they announced it, and then they had Concept 2 at the Rogue Invitational, Concept 2 machines on the field. So yeah, as far as I know,
It's so messed up.
So like again, I'm not in Concept 2. I'm not an employee. I'm not paid by them to do that stuff. I do a lot of partner work with them, but as far as I know, they at least opened the door to new distributors as a result. So I think they brought in like 4 or 5 new distributors.
I mean, at this point, Rogue has like expanded well beyond the CrossFit space, but that's certainly where they started. But when we met, we were still very much in the CrossFit space. To what extent do 300,000 people on a YouTube channel, like, are those CrossFitters or are those actual rowing, just like solely rolling the sport of rowing, and they don't do any other sport like CrossFit or any other weightlifting, etc.?
When I started the channel, I made the conscious decision not to lean onto the CrossFit bit too hard. Not like because I didn't want to be talking about CrossFit, but because I recognized that there are people who rowing is a high enough hurdle for people to decide to go search for information about it anyways. And so it's a high kinesthetic requirement. So it takes a lot of energy to continue to think about it in order to improve. It's a big skill movement, just like Olympic weightlifting, right? There's a lot of focus. You have to pay attention, and you got to want to work on it. That's a high enough hurdle. So I already had that barrier. If I also was tagging the CrossFit name onto it, which just presented yet another barrier to people with like the subconscious thought of like, oh, that's too intense for me. That's not what I'm after. But at the same time, recognizing that I had been teaching, or I taught the CrossFit rowing seminar pretty much for the entirety of its existence. Like, I didn't want to push the CrossFit crowd away, but I also didn't want to just glom onto CrossFit and make that my only subset of an audience. So at this point, I would say it's loosely tied to some of the CrossFit audience. Maybe, I don't know, 100,000 of the 300,000 still have attachments to CrossFit or in a CrossFit gym or a gym of functional fitness proportions. And the other 200,000 are probably just people who own a rowing machine and use it as their either their primary or their sole form of fitness at home. It sits in their spare bedroom, their garage, their living room, and they're not comfortable enough, or they either have a full home gym setup or they've just chosen one because like a barbell is too intimidating for them. So they might have some dumbbells, they might have a kettlebell or two, things like that.
Dr. Andy Galpin here. As a listener of the show, you've probably heard us talking about the RTA program, which we're all incredibly proud of. It's a culmination of everything Dan Garner and I have learned over more than 2 decades of working with some of the world's most elite performers, award-winning athletes, billionaires, musicians, executives, and frankly, anyone who just wanted to be at their absolute best. RTA is not a normal coaching program. It's not just macros and a workout plan. It's not physique transformation and pre and post pictures. RTA is something completely different. RTA is incredibly comprehensive and designed to uncover your unique molecular signature, find your performance anchors, and solve them permanently. You'll be working with not one person, but rather a full team of elite professionals, each with their own special expertise to maximize precision, accuracy, and effectiveness of your analysis and optimization plan. RTA isn't about treating symptoms or quick fixes. It's about unlocking your full potential and looking, feeling, and performing at your absolute best, physically and mentally, when the stakes are the highest. To learn more, visit aratelab.com. That's ARETE lab.com. Now, back to the show.
I want to dig in. You're actually on the water doing the sport.
Yes.
What does your training actually look like? Kind of call it like week to week. How many days a week are you on the water, on the erg, strength training? Like, how do you put all that together?
Okay, so I think we all know this. Like with kids, life gets very like you really got to priorize.
The rower's perfect.
So easy.
1-500 all out. You're good for a week.
Yeah. Right. I was just talking about that this morning because I'm in my studio right now, which is like a block.
Wait, how
and
many
a
do
half.
you have now?
How many what?
Kids.
Oh, 2.
There you go. High five.
2
buddy.
is
Great
all
job.
I need. So the studio now is like a block. Yeah, all set. I'm a block and a half from Invictus, and so I just kind of like walk by it on my way to my office most days. And I was talking to Nunu, if you guys remember Nunu Costa.
He's still there?
For sure.
He's still there, still doing his thing.
Incredible.
He's still fit.
He's probably the number one in the world of whatever age he is.
Yeah, I know. He's amazing. The guy's an incredible athlete. So anyways, we were talking and he was asking the same question. I think in a week, I would estimate I'm putting in probably 80 to 100,000 meters a week right now, between the erg and the water. So I have 2 water practices a week, sometimes a third if I can convince my wife to let me have Saturdays. But most weeks I only commit to training Monday through Friday, and then I commit the weekend to the family, whether I have to do home projects or take the kids to sports or whatever. So in a typical week, I will have 3 or 4 high aerobic workouts, mostly zone 2 stuff. Tons of zone 2 has been what I would say is the secret sauce for my the success that I've had this year. And because I've never really approached just a boatload of zone 2. So I'll spend anywhere from 60 minutes to 90 minutes on the machine on my non-water days. And then on the water days, we'll have 1 or 2. One day might be a steady state row, and then the other day is going to be some kind of intensity interval. So last week was 3 by 8 minutes, so basically 3 by 2K on the water. Saturday was multiple 750s, so 4 sets of 2 by 750 with 1 minute rest in between. We're practicing sprinting because we're getting into race season is about to start, so we're getting ready for 2K season. So yeah, that's what it's like. I actually raced the San Diego Indoor Classic and all-time PR'd my 2K a month ago, faster than college at 39, which is pretty wild.
Isn't that wild?
That's super cool.
That's wild.
Yeah, it blows my mind.
Wait, what's your 2K time?
Now it's a 6:21.
Yeah. Woo! What a boy.
Have you guys ever have you watched the movie Boys in a Boat?
Of course.
That movie made me fall in love with rowing. Like, I'm so glad I watched that, and then I'm talking to you. Before I'd been like, rowing a boat, good. That movie gives so much respect for what you do. And like, is that true?
Yeah, it's a true story.
So those dudes just like made the Olympics like just because they tried to feed themselves.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, they were coming out of the depression there and riding into pretty tumultuous time, and they were, feeding. They were struggling at the time, so you had a lot of like farm boys who just happened to be tall and strong that were, in need of a place where they could be housed and fed and continue to go to school. And at that time, you would use the feeder program for the Olympics was much more of like you would take an entire collegiate team,
right,
transplant them to the Olympics. There were not real opportunities for like developing a national team at that time. So yeah, pretty cool story.
Yeah, it was super cool. And like Doug and I have been, me and Doug Anders, we've been to Jamaica. I got a chance to work with the sprinters from Jamaica. And like, one thing I noticed is like, because you always ask yourself, how does a little country like Jamaica, it's like the size of like, I don't know, a suburb of Chicago, but yet it dominates in the world of sprinting. But when you give athletes no other opportunity, it's like you make this happen or else you're in big trouble. The motivation is quite different than what we experience in America. And like the athletes, dealing with athletes there is completely different than dealing with athletes here, but that was just interesting getting to see it, like even from an American point of view, that when you give athletes no other choice, they seem to like make things happen other than too many choices.
Yeah. Well, because I mean, if you put people into a pressure cooker situation, you're going to get the best that come out the top. Those that decide that, they have to, right? Like it's a at all costs. Like this is what I have to do. And I will do whatever it takes to get there kind of thing. When, like you said, like when people have too many choices, when you're like, I could take it or leave it, you're not going to get good athletes. You're just not.
I know.
You can get fit athletes, but you're not going to get athletes that want it.
Right. Because they don't have to do it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You get the like, I could take it or leave it. Oh, I won. Oh, I didn't win. Like, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know. It's quite frustrating sometimes as an American coach dealing with athletes because of that very reason. They're like, I'm good. My parents are going to leave me 10 million, so I'm fine. And so, to make, or like with me as an athlete, I didn't have other choices. It's like, I had to make shit happen or else. And so, but
yeah, it's why I prefer not working with elite level athletes, honestly.
Yeah.
Most of my audience, they're all absolute beginners because they're hungry. They want it. If you come to me searching for like, how do I start rowing, and you're 45 years old, like you've decided to make a choice that you got to figure
you want to be fit
out, know? Yeah. You're not coming in with like, well, I'm trying to, shave off 0.1% here.
Yeah.
Where, maybe you're my thing. Maybe you're not. I don't know if I trust you.
Seriously.
I got a higher level coach that I trust more. And like, well, I got this World Cup that I got to get to. So like, I'm going to put you on the back burner and I'll contemplate listening to someday.
In my point. This is my point. Yeah.
To that age group, have you noticed a big bump kind of in the rowing world as like VO2 max and zone 2 and longevity kind of training has become popularized over the last 2 years?
Rowing feels definitely like it's a little bit stuck in the past. Now, that being said, I would argue that a lot of rowers already trended. That doesn't sound right as I'm saying it, but trended towards a lot of low intensity volume anyways. So I don't know that it feels like it's been a big surge on our side of things, because you kind of had this like high volume audience from like, if they were rowing in the 70s or 80s, it was kind of like baked into them anyways to like, jog, but on the rower. So I don't know that we've had a ton of like a big surge of zone 2 talk.
Yeah.
Things that I'm surprised haven't been picked up in rowing is like, why haven't we converted over to using like FTP zones as one way of tracking performance on the machines? People are still a little bit hesitant even to like jump onto heart rate training, which is odd to me. For zone 2, they're just kind of like, I just sit on the machine and do 20,000 meters. Just 10, I just do 10,000 meters. I'm like, with like absolutely zero objectives, like you don't use any metrics for success there. It's just kind of
the sweating.
When you're talking about your training a second ago, like at some level, I totally expect you to come in here and talk about doing some long, slow distance, zone 2 type stuff, and then a bunch of intervals of varying, sets and durations and all that. But I really am not familiar with rowing as a sport. Only really rowing relative to kind of the CrossFit community. How much do you guys play with changing the resistance on the rower for various intervals and whatnot? Do you find like your optimum resistance setting and then stick with it with whatever kind of produces the most meters for the output, or do you actually play with the resistance for any particular reason, or do you keep resistance all in the kind of more of the strength training world?
We don't mess with resistance a ton. Sometimes if you're in an elite program, you might have a coach that gives you a few workouts here and there messing with resistance. Now, if I'm looking at this as a coach and I'm coaching on the water and I have full control of a program, I would probably program some workouts where I'm messing with resistance for my team. Because if you think about it, in a given practice on the water for us, we're in Mission Bay, which has connection to the ocean, which means we have a tide that comes in and out. And so sometimes we are going against the tide, sometimes we are with the tide, sometimes you're into a headwind, sometimes you have a tailwind, crosswind. All these things change the resistance feeling of the water, which is essentially what adjusting your damper setting does. Changes the resistance feeling of water. It doesn't adjust your intensity, you determine your intensity. And so I would play with various damper settings in order to just be able to practice on the machine what we would experience on the water. But largely in part on the machine, we just pick a damper setting that works for us personally, and we typically just stick with that. I use a drag factor of 117, and that's pretty much uniform what I use for all of my training sessions, whether I'm pulling a 2K, whether I'm doing 5 by 20 minutes, whether I'm sitting down and just doing a 20K steady state. I'm going to use the same resistance setting for pretty much everything that I do.
So for the average person that has no idea where to put that setting, what's like an easy just catch all for anyone that
10.
is just starting out?
Stop it.
Go to 10.
Just kill yourself right in the first minute.
If you have a new-ish machine, if it's clean, you don't see a bunch of dust on the flywheel, between a 3 and a 4 is a good place to start on the damper setting. That's like, hey, you don't even want to bother understanding what drag factor is. Just take the little lever, put it between 3 and 4. If the machine looks pretty dirty, there's dust all over the place, clearly hasn't been cleaned in a long time, I would take it up between 4 and 5. And if it's exceptionally dirty, there's rust on the cage, tons of dust coating the thing, take it up between a 5 and a 6. All because dust simply adjusts the feeling of resistance because it's limiting air supply in the flywheel housing. And so the same feeling at a 3-4 on a nice clean machine, there's lots of air moving in and out. But if you have a ton of dust on that thing, it's limiting the air supply. So a 3-4 on a clean machine versus a really dirty machine, they're not going to feel the same. They're going to actually be different resistances. Even though your little lever says, 3-4 versus 5-6, that's not a unit of measurement. The unit of measurement is how much. It's really what it's measuring is the deceleration of the flywheel. So the more air that's in there, the faster the flywheel decelerates. The less air supply, the slower it decelerates, which is why you get, when you're down at a 1, it feels really fast, is because it's pinched off the air supply. So the flywheel just keeps spinning. And so in order to catch up with it, you have to be faster twitch at the catch in order to meet or match the speed of the flywheel. Whereas when you take it up to a 10, you open up all the air supply on the side of the flywheel housing. Now it gets really heavy because there's a ton of air. So now that flywheel slows down really quickly because you've increased air supply. And so now it has greater resistance. And so it slows down faster. But it's also why damper setting drag factor is not what determines your intensity on the machine. It just changes the feel. Right? I hope that made sense. So
yeah, right on. I mean, despite having been around rowing at least a little bit, I didn't know that level of detail. Do you do any other supplemental cardio given you're already on the rower as much as you are, do you go for a jog? Do you do metcons? Do you do any other anything, or is it just rowing and strength training, or do you just row, especially pre-competition?
It's I like to go through seasons. This year, though, I've really just put my head down to rowing. But again, last year was the first solid year of training that I've given to rowing since college. Because, I went to CrossFit and competed in CrossFit from 10 through 13, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yeah. So went to the games 10, 11, 12, 13. So, and then after that, I just kind of like continued to dabble
like so long ago.
God, it was so long ago.
You're just counting that on your fingers like it was high school. You're like, oh, Jesus, 20
15 years. So, and then I just continued to dabble in like strength training but prior to last year, a typical season for me would be like, okay, December through March, I might row. I would typically row one race a year. And then every June I run, if you ever heard of the Dipsy, is the oldest trail race in the country. It's up in Marin County, up in Northern California. So I run the Dipsy every year. This will be my 5th year doing it. My goal is 30 straight years. I have 2 other buddies that I run it with, and it's like our goal is to hit 30. It's pretty cool. It's a beautiful race. You start on the bay side of San Francisco and you finish on the ocean. You literally
How long is it?
It's like 8.2 miles and like 2,400 feet of elevation gain, and it's single track. So you're like passing people constantly. There's like you're swim moving by people on single track, and it's ages from like I think the youngest winner of the race is like 8 years old.
Oh, wow.
Because of the way that they seed it. It's super cool. So it's like 5-year-olds to 95-year-olds running this thing. And they do like a reverse seeding. So the 95-year-olds and the 5-year-olds start the race together. And then they basically go down from there in like V of age until you get to your scratch age, which I think is like 30 maybe, or like 30 to, I don't know, 32 to 34. And so the 34-year-olds are like trying to catch the 95-year-olds and the 5-year-olds that are on the trail. So it's true first finisher wins, which is awesome. So it's like genuine
Super
first person to
cool.
cross the line. It's a really cool race.
I didn't even know that existed. That's awesome.
Yeah. And entry is super fun because it's very limited. You have to like get a spot there are 2 categories. There's invite and open. You have to start in the open, which sucks because the entire invite category, 5 and 95 and down to scratch, go first, and then open goes. So if you're in the open, you're having to like pass 1,000 extra people just to get close to the invite group. And in order to get entry, they encourage like bribery. They encourage sob stories. It's like built into the application form. Like write your sob story on the back. Feel free to include donations, to the entry committee. So it's really fun. It's a cool race, like super historic, and it's really fun. So anyways.
Wait, in order to do 30 of them, do you have to get lucky, or does your like last year weigh into getting it this year?
Yeah. So once you earn your way into the invite,
get like a seat.
Yeah. Once you earn your way into the invite, then your goal is to maintain your invite status. And you have to do that by by finishing in the top. I forget what the percentage is. You have to stay in the top percent to continue to earn the invite back. Otherwise, you can get rolled out, and then you'd have to reapply to get into open. Thankfully, I've maintained my invite status.
With that level that's like a 2-hour race with that level of elevation, and
the fastest times are like 50 minutes.
Stop it.
Yeah, it's insane.
What, 8 miles? With like a big climb?
It's crazy. The initial climb
it's like Hunter McIntyre, everybody.
Yeah. You start the race. You like sprint through the downtown of Mill Valley. If you've ever been to Marin, it's a beautiful little town. You sprint through the town, and then you hit stairs, and you just climb 1,000 feet of stairs immediately. That's how the race starts. And it's like 2 lanes of traffic. There's a walking lane, and then there's the running lane. And you're just getting elbowed, and people are like trying to make progress on these stairs, which is dumb because you're not going to really win it on the first set, and you can, screw yourself over. And then it's just this massive 1,000-foot descent immediately after the stairs. You bottom out at the bottom of a valley, and then you just have another like 1,200-foot climb through trail that is just endless. It feels like it never ends. And then you peak that, and then it's just this long descent to the ocean where you're like running through the redwoods and the fog. It's beautiful.
So what would be the best like strategy is like survive the steps, make the descent, and then on the climb, or where's the best place to make your move?
Fast descents. If anybody that knows trail running, like fast descents can make up a ton of time. If you're willing to just kind of throw caution to the wind, you can make up a ton of time on descents if you're a good descender. And the second climb is where you can really make up a lot of meat in the race because it's so long, and people get really bogged down. So the tough part is if you don't surge early, you get stuck in the glom of kind of the middle pack of people. And so you really want to try and get ahead of them because that group tends to really slow you down when you get pinch pointed at, long climbs where you've got roots on all sides of you and there's really not much passing that you can do.
So the descent, it seems like that descent, you need to separate yourself. And then all right.
Yeah. Quick
I'm
turnover,
so into this,
feet.
I never thought I'd be into all this like endurance sports, but like it's so fascinating for me being, more into like weightlifting and like a 1 second sport. I love the endurance strategy.
Dude, if you get mashed when you realize like how many cool things like adventure wise are in that like domain of fitness, it's really cool. Like we had a client that did the race across America. They're doing 100 miles a day on a bike or more, so, like some crazy numbers for 2 weeks straight, or I can't remember all the specifics of it. Like doing the rim to rim to rim to rim.
Oh yeah.
The Grand Canyon. There's so many cool things that you can do. I haven't done many of them, but they're all. What's the one with the Everest challenge that they do in Colorado?
Oh, yeah, it's called
like
Everesting.
Everesting.
You just do enough altitude to peak Everest.
Yeah, they hike up and then they take the chairlift down, and then they hike up and take the chairlift down until they've done whatever the equivalent is of summiting Everest. Is it's 29,000 feet or whatever it is.
Well, like you guys have heard about what is it, the Barkley? The
where you running the circle every 4 miles every hour.
No, this is the one that's in like I think it's in maybe Tennessee, somewhere in Appalachia, I think, where it's 5 laps, and every lap you reverse course, and you have to. It's like there are like 1 or 2 finishers every year. And
only 1 or 2 people survive. Is that what you're saying?
Pretty much, yeah. There have only been like in its history, it's been going since like the 80s. I think there have only been like 15 or 20 finishers.
Yeah,
that have ever finished it.
There's one that I saw.
That's your race, Mash.
No.
Yeah, there's one that I saw that's like it's like 4 miles or 5 miles an hour forever until there's one man standing.
Yes.
Yeah,
that one sounds
something
so
like that. It's
gnarly.
like the Agogi or something similar.
Oh my God.
That one sounds so gnarly. Like just knowing that every hour you're on 4 miles. Like you're running 10-minute miles forever for infinity until you quit. And even if you did them in 12 minutes, like you're looking at like a day.
Yeah. Okay, so here I got
break
it.
down.
This is the Barkley Marathon. Barkley Marathon, it's an ultra marathon trail race held each year in Frozen Head State Park in Morgan County, Tennessee. And it's just there's a documentary about it, definitely worth watching if you want to see something interesting. And it's like entry is a license plate from your state or country plus the item of clothing that the organizer wants for that year. So like everybody will I want pants. And like everybody has to bring his size pants plus their license plate. And like that's entry.
That would be awesome. You would never run out of jeans. I'd be like,
like he just so like one year he wants underwear. Everybody has to bring him money. Like gives you a size. You have to bring him underwear. It's nuts.
That's awesome.
That's funny. I don't need to do the endless races, but I mentioned this on the show before, and I might get this wrong. It was something along the lines of vacationraces.com, I want to say. So I got a alarm going off here. I think it's vacationraces.com. You basically just go to like all the national parks and just you go to Glacier, you go to Yosemite, you go to Arches, like, and you just do cool races like in the most beautiful places in America. And, like that's something that I could totally get behind. I love national
100%.
parks, and like to do it and to have a race tacked onto it sounds like an enormous amount of fun, way more fun than an endless race
Yes.
that only one person has ever finished in the existence of the race.
Dear God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yo, I want to hear kind of the story back into the water and getting back into the sport of rowing. How long did that take? Like, what was the gap between your, I guess your, maybe it was college or the last time you were like rowing as a sport versus training or CrossFit?
So I mean, my last competitive season of rowing was my last year of college. So 2009.
Yeah.
And after that, I continued to dabble. I was always fit enough. And so I would get a call like every December, like, hey, we're putting a boat together for the San Diego Crew Classic, which is the big season opener. And it's here in San Diego. So it was an easy yes. I could always just fill a spot for one race. And I'd be like, sure, I'll show up for a couple practices. I'm fit enough. I can handle a 2K and, not make the boat suck. And then I had this coxswain that I've known forever. She moved back to San Diego. Her husband was a pilot in the Navy, and so they moved back. She pinged me and was like, "Hey, it'd be really fun if we put an actual fast boat together this year. Do you think you'd be on board?" And I was like, hemmed and hawed. I was like, I don't know. I haven't been in an organized program for a while. And she just kept needling me. She's like, come on, we'd love to have you. Like, if we start now, I think we can make a really fast boat. And honestly, it was just her, like, not giving up on me. And so last November, December, I officially joined San Diego Rowing Club, and we started training together. And it was wild. We went and won San Diego Crew Classic. We went to regionals, swept every race that we were in, other than one where I flipped the boat right out of the start.
Oh boy!
So yeah, it was. They put me in a double.
First timer.
Yeah. So there, if you don't know this, there are two types.
What is this rowing thing we're doing today?
There are two types of rowing. There's sweeping and sculling. So sweep rowing is where you have one giant oar. So you have one big oar. Each athlete is just responsible for one oar, and you rotate out around a pin. So your movement is actually rotating, not straightforward like on a rowing machine. So you rotate out. That's the type of rowing that I do. Sweeping, think like a broom. You only sweep with one broom at a time, and your oar's huge. Sculling, you have two blades. You have a blade in each hand, so that's called sculling. I don't scull. I've never sculled. I've never been in a single. I don't get in sculling boats. It's not the type of rowing I've ever practiced or done. And they just threw me into a double, which is me and one other guy in a sculling boat. And if you're not used to it, it's like riding a unicycle. Rowing is, rowing is very skill heavy. You're in a long shell that's a V-shaped hull. It doesn't balance itself. And you're coordinating two moving objects in your hands, which only have a singular fixed point, but you're in control of what the oars are doing.
Yeah.
And we went to start the race, first stroke, and it was me and this dude, a retired Navy SEAL, was my partner. He was sitting behind me, and he had slightly more experience. And he was like, we're going to be fine. It'll be great. Started the race, first stroke. We just rolled straight into the water.
Oh, God.
It was embarrassing. Other than that, we swept regionals, went to nationals, swept nationals, went to the head of the Charles in the Champ 4, which is the best colleges in the country. So Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Dartmouth, Washington, you name it, best colleges in the country. And it was us against all the best colleges in the country in a 4. We started in 14th place, finished in 11th out of 18. And there were 3 national teams there. So the U.S. had a team in a boat in that race, the Italians, and then the Swiss and the Irish put a 4 together. And we took 11th. We beat 3 other teams, moved up from 14th to 11th. It was awesome. It was
help me understand technique, because earlier you related rowing to like Olympic weightlifting, that's what I coach. Help me understand all the I could easily explain to you kind of like what the technique of weightlifting is. Help me understand the technique of rowing.
So, you know, a, we like to try and borrow from what we understand when it comes to teaching something, as you know, like it makes it easier to apply knowledge for people that don't understand it. So, if we're looking at rowing, for example, we can talk about bits and pieces of other sports that make sense into what we're doing. Essentially, the rowing stroke is you're coming up to a fixed point that is a loaded spring. That's the catch. That's essentially the taking a bar off the floor moment, right? You got to have good setup on a barbell if you're going to take it off the floor. You got to make sure that your body is braced in good position and that you're hitting all of the key points in that position, right? The better you get, the more comfortable you get hitting your setup right out of the gates. Without having to sit there and fidget and find it and have a coach behind you lifting your ass and dropping your shoulders and making sure your lats are engaged and so on and so forth, right? That's our catch, right? Setup.
Right.
As you drive, you are trying to essentially move against a fixed point. So just like taking a barbell off the ground, you have to make sure that your trunk is braced so that that doesn't become a slippage point and become an energy leak, because you need that core to be able to transfer the power you're driving from your legs into the machine that transfers up to the handle.
I'm totally with you. Yeah.
Just like moving a barbell. It's the same concept. You're applying force through the legs that has to transfer through the body and be applied to an external force, which is the handle in our instance.
Right.
As you finish, you're not really reaching triple extension in our sport. You're hitting the point at basically like a 1 o'clock hip opening, roughly. It actually ends up being a little bit, you want to aim for slightly less, but you end up getting to 1 o'clock with like momentum carrying you open. And that's just that finished position. So it starts with that leg push, transferring into a hip swing, and then just snapping with the arms. As opposed to like getting a shrug and getting elbows high and outside. You're just thinking about that handle coming right into the base of the sternum. Then the difference is that you do have to be consciously thinking about what you're doing on the recovery. That's the move forward. And at that point, it's just a reverse image of what you just did. So you got to make sure that the hands move away first, because you're trying to reload the system every time.
Got it.
So it kind of like if you were to take, barbell cycling, I know it's like a bastardization of, let's take a snatch, for example. But like if you take a snatch and you barbell cycle a snatch, you have to make sure that as that comes down, as that barbell is coming down, you're transferring into that elbow down so that that barbell can slot against your body and make sure that the bar tracks into the right position so that you're in a good setup position. Same concept on the recovery. Hands get away, then your hips close, then the knees bend to bring you back. And that way you get to the catch position and you're fully loaded, ready to go again for the next stroke.
Ah, it's beautiful. Okay. That's awesome, man. I mean, like, I've just never thought of, I know it sounds beautiful. Like, when I see rowing, I'm sure same thing, that when someone just watches someone do like a snatch, they just think, oh, no big deal. But like,
that looks so easy.
Yeah, it looks so easy. And then I'm like, try it and see what happens,
Yeah. Think about trying to rub your head and pat your belly while you're riding a unicycle. Like, that's what we're doing.
That was a beautiful explanation. Thank you.
Yeah. And I always say, like, rowing on a rowing machine is like riding a four-wheeler, where you learn how the system works. You're sitting on a seat, you have wheels, you have pedals, you have handlebars. Like, you get how the pedaled system works and makes sense. Then learning to row on the water is like taking what you learned on a four-wheeler and learning to ride a unicycle.
Sure.
The same systems apply, but it becomes infinitely more complex. That's what taking it to the water ends up doing.
I always wondered, like, you see those little boats. I'm always wondering, like, man, it looks like they would tip easily. But like, when you watch the movie Boys in a Boat, they just get right in it and start, paddling down the river or whatever. But like, it's a lot harder than it looks. Obviously, the movie, of course, it is. But like,
yeah, dude, just take the family out for like a little day at the park and try and hop
and drown them all.
Strap your feet into shoes that are connected to the boat, and then flip a boat into the water while everybody's feet are still attached to the system.
Oh God, you just freaked me out. I'm never rowing.
I feel like you have to have some stories about that happening. Like,
what do you do?
Are there times where people can't get their feet unclipped or out of the slots?
It's happened. So your shoes are actually fixed to the boat, so you just come in with socks, and then you put your feet into the shoes that are already there. But now, I'm sure this is as a result of horrible things that have happened in the past. Most shoes are Velcro, and then there's a a single strap that connects to both of the Velcro pieces. So all you have to do is grab a single strap, pull, and both feet your feet can come out. Like, for example, when I flipped at regionals, it's just instinctive. You reach for the strap, pull it, and both your feet just instantly come out.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I've always wondered, like, where I've seen kayakers flip over, and there's like a technique where they can, right themselves, but it's like their whole legs are like in the kayak. Not the exact same thing as rowing, but it's just like, as a non-kayaker, I look at that and go, I want no part of that.
Yeah.
I've done that. Believe it or not, I'm pretty good at kayaking. I love kayaking.
Are you?
I'm good at canoeing, kayaking.
Wow.
I used to teach both. Yeah. So
No kidding.
yeah.
Oh,
I know I don't look like it, but
you'd be just fine in a boat, other than just having to learn how to set the boat. That's the hardest part for most people, is learning how to let the boat set itself while not impacting it much. Because in like a single, for example, those boats might be 1.5 feet wide, like not even as wide as you are, and it's a V-shaped hull. Like if there was nobody in it and you just put that boat on the water, it wouldn't set itself. It would just tip to the side, and it would rest on the rigger with one rigger on the water, like a training wheel.
it looks like the most beautiful sport in the world, though. It looks like you getting out there on the water. It's just like
It's
just
great.
looks beautiful.
Just gliding.
Yeah.
It is. Quiet mornings on glassy water, or like a little bit of fog. And you row as you're watching the sunrise. Like, that's as beautiful as it gets. There are a ton of mornings where you're like, this is why I do this. Yeah. And then you sit on the earth, you're like, why do I do this?
It's
Wait,
the same
is
way.
there a reason? I feel like rowers, like, it's like a part of the culture to like wake up super early to do rowing. Is there like an actual reason for that, or is that just a part of the culture, for some unknown reason?
Number one, that's when you have the calmest water, because there's no boat traffic out yet. Most people, because our boats are so tippy and they only sit, maybe 1 foot to 1.5 feet out of the water, wake can really just it'll roll over the gunnel of your boat and fill the boat with water, and you get into like hazard situations like that. So
I'd be so pissed if somebody comes zooming by.
We hate water skiers.
Man.
We hate water skiers.
Yeah, I would.
And wakeboarders.
I'd have a pellet gun.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So that's reason number one, is because we don't row in open water. We row on calm water. So that's when you get your calm water. Nobody else is out on boats yet. The second is, at least when it comes to team rowing, that's the easiest time to get 16 adults to show up at one place at the same time without scheduling conflicts before we've all started our job for the day. Because on Tuesdays and Thursdays when I have practice, I'm waking at 4:20 in the morning to get to the water by 10 to 5. And practice, we're starting at 5. We are on the water by 5:15, and then we're off the water by 7. No questions. Like,
that's awesome.
Home by 7:30 making breakfast.
People got to shower and get to work. Like, it does not extend beyond 7 o'clock.
Yeah, so, and like, there's something about, I used to canoe early like that too, and like, it would be so peaceful. You're on the river, and it's just like, it's just no place I'd rather be. Like, my best friend KJ and I used to wait when it would flood. We would kayak the river, and it was. I look back and think about how dumb that was. But we would go and we would kayak some monster like whitewater in places you shouldn't be kayaking. Yeah. Like, it was so
the things we do as kids.
The things we do.
When just you saying rowing on Mission Beach, I used to love waking up and walking in the morning around Mission Bay and seeing you guys out there, and I'd be like, dude, that is the sport. Beautiful. Like, that is the best. You're
it's out like
on the water by yourself.
It's like you doing your surfing though, same beautiful. Yeah.
Water sport's the best. I don't know. It's the only place you can just like really go and you're just like actually disconnected.
Yeah. There's nothing you can do out there. You're focused on the thing. That's it. That's all you've got.
Yeah.
How do you get into that sport though? Like, it's so like, it's like weightlifting used to be. Weightlifting, if you didn't live in like one of 7 places in America, you didn't weightlift. But like, that's the way it is for rowing now. Like, where do you go? Like, if you're not like in like Massachusetts or or Washington or some of these places who love rowing, like, it's hard to get into. I would love for my kids to get in that sport.
It's location wise, it's tough because you need access to just a body of water. Plenty of people do have their own shells. They'll take a single and they'll go row on a lake nearby, even if there's no rowing club, as long as there's a put-in location.
There you go. Yeah.
You know, they'll go and row on their own. Admittedly, though, like clubs, this is the part of rowing that I fight against, and kind of the whole thing that I've built my business on is like, as a community, and we as rowers suck. We're the worst. We come off to everybody as snobby. We make it hard to approach. We're always wearing spandex. Like nobody understands that. It's not like an easy like
weightlifting too though. Same, man.
Yeah. For you to like walk into a rowing club and be like, "Hi, I don't know what I'm doing," is intimidating as shit. And they're not going to make it easy on you. They're never going to answer an email at a boathouse. They're never going to answer the phone.
Yeah.
You have to walk in and everybody's standing there in spandex, soaking wet, staring at you. And you're like, can I just talk to anyone? Like, is there an office here?
Does anybody have
running this place?
You
know, I'm sure. Like, think about
material here.
Some of the gyms that I've owned, I bet the first time coming in had to be the hardest thing ever. Because it's like
terrifying.
The middle of nowhere, and it's just a bunch of just monsters lifting crazy weights and like with their shirts off and spandex on, and like, you know, their pants are ripped where the bar is meeting their thighs. It's just like, I never even thought about all this, but yeah.
So I don't know. As far as finding rowing, my objective is to try and make rowing more approachable for people. Beautiful. And a lot of that starts on the rowing machine. If you can gain a level of confidence on the rowing machine that you love it on the machine, you might be willing to suffer the initial discomfort of having that first conversation at a boathouse, or like calling a boathouse until somebody answers the phone to make your way to the water eventually. It's a little easier for kids because juniors programs are a little bit more welcoming. But you know, getting your kids into rowing is fantastic. So it's because there are so many scholarships in rowing and so few athletes that it's a great avenue for getting scholarships for kids into college and entrance into like big name schools with scholarships, because there aren't a whole lot of juniors athletes out there.
Shane, where can the people find you, my man?
What's that?
Where can the people find you?
Oh, where can people find you?
One word.
I thought you were just indiscriminately shouting at me.
You'll do it.
Maybe. Yeah. Maybe.
Darkhorserowing.com, but primarily I would say youtube.com/darkhorserowing is probably the best place to find us. If you head to darkhorserowing.com, you'll find all of our resources there. We're improving our website at the moment, but that's where you can find and connect with us and find everything that we have to offer. Otherwise, the YouTube channel is a good place to find what we have new coming out.
When are you starting your permaculture YouTube channel?
Dude, I so badly want to do that. I have a really good friend.
We'll do this on another show. We'll talk about farming in another show. I actually met with a client yesterday, and he goes, "Did you really buy a farm?" And I was like, "Oh, how long you got? We could turn this into a 2-hour-long meeting. Would you like to?"
Dude, I have a buddy who has one of the largest gardening YouTube channels in the world here in San Diego. His channel's Epic Gardening, and every time I see him, I'm like, how do I? I'd love to do this. I'd love to start a new channel. Yeah. I should.
Start from zero with all the knowledge you have. Coach Travis Mash.
MashLead.com. And soon we got a new website coming out, but I also have this article dropping for GymAware. It's all about how to get faster sprinting in the gym. It is a monster.
Working on that.
It's going to be a sick article.
Can we do a show so I don't have to read?
I would love that. Yeah, I'll tell you all about it. Yeah. All right. Thanks, man. I got to dip out, but thanks, Shane. This is an awesome show.
Larson.
Thanks for having me,
Travis. Yeah. You bet. Shane, stoked to have you back on the show, man. Been a couple of years here, but I haven't actually checked out your YouTube channel in quite some time, so I didn't realize it was crushing to the extent that it is. So stoked to go check it out. But appreciate you coming on, man. Always enjoy it.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate you guys.
You bet. Find me on Instagram, Douglas E. Larson.
Yeah. Dude, when you reached out the other day, because I didn't reach out when I was supposed to, I was so stoked because it was like one of those dad moments. I think probably all dads have them, everybody. Where I was like in the car and the kids jumped out and you texted me and I was like, oh, mom's just going to have to handle the kids for the next 20 minutes. I'm talking chickens. I'm talking cattle. Like, we got things to do now. And I just sat there and was like texting. I was like, I'm not dadding right now at all. I'm talking about farming.
I'm so envious of the cattle, the ability to have actual livestock beyond chickens. Like I wish I could have that kind of space or even that kind of forethought to be able to handle that. It's not where we are. Certainly not in La Mesa.
Yeah, you need it's wild. My main takeaway from owning cows now is that they're kind of like, remember when you had your first kid and you just like, it wasn't doing anything, but you could just like stare at it and you're like, this is wildly fun. Like, wow. Now I have a cow and I just stare at it. I'm like, you're just eating. It's just eating. It does nothing but eat. And 20 minutes will go by, 30 minutes. And Ashton's like, where are you? I'm like, oh, we're just
Watching
looking
the
at this
cow.
thing's horns. Yeah, it's just staring at a cow.
What's the objective? Like, what's your goal? Is it meat? Is it grazing? Is it like soil rehab?
I'll tell you the whole thing. This is great for the intro. People actually make it this long in the show. My end goal by the end of this year is to be like 90% self-sustaining and not have to go to a grocery store except for, I joke, ice cream and bread. That's about it. Yeah. So I bought 2 cows, one, the mom, and then the baby. So that mom's going to be making it sometime to around like July, August, and then she's got to go to slaughter. And then I'm splitting it with my neighbor. We've counted 110 trees, fruit trees in the orchard. So that's an enormous amount of fruit, obviously vegetable gardens. And then between my neighbor and I, we're like a meat team. We can take down like 3 deer in our backyard. We'll have each 500 plus pounds of meat for the year. 110 fruit trees to 10,000 plus fruits, and then the vegetables and all those things. So I don't really have much else after that I consume. So I shouldn't, like, the goal is to like not have to go to a grocery store for a year.
Are you planning on supplementing like grain in with like doing like large scale grain purchase, like large flour, large rice purchases, or are you guys not doing grains?
I'm sure that will show up just because a year is a long time, and like probably going to want some white rice at some point. But for the most part, like it's 90%. Like, I'm really trying not to have to go to a grocery store.
I like that.
So, that's enough farming. I'm Anders Varner at Anders Varner, and we are Barbell Shrugged, Barbell_Shrugged. And you can head over to rtlab.com. That is where you can learn about all the lab, lifestyle, and performance analysis, testing, and coaching that we will be doing for you inside Rapid Health Optimization. It's rtlab.com. Friends, we'll see you guys next week.